Hi guys, sorry about last week, our attempt at doing the Facebook Live. We didn't realise the Wi-Fi was so bad, so hopefully we can get that going down the track. But for the meantime, here's the video on the next habit, which is to eat whole foods only. Just before we get started with that though, just a bit of a debrief over the last 2 weeks. So we just want to know what are the things that you've been doing really well. So what's helping you to move towards your nutrition goal? It might be related to the previous habit, it might be just in general, but if you'd like to comment up with some things that have been working really well for you, we'll have a look at those and give you some good feedback. So back to our habit, eat whole foods only. So whole foods are basically foods that are really minimally processed. So nothing much has been done to alter the whole form of the food. So we're looking at things such as fresh fruit and vegetables, whole grains, beans and legumes, minimally processed lean protein. So that would be like a whole chicken, like a cut of chicken, piece of steak, piece of fish, nuts and seeds, and also eggs. So they're predominantly your whole foods. You can also include some minimally processed or packaged foods such as canned tomatoes or other veggies, bagged frozen seafood or frozen vegetables, and some canned fish. So if you just think, if the food is still relatively in its whole form and nothing has been added to that food, you can still consider those foods a whole food even though they are canned or packaged. Just rather than a rule about, well, this is a good food, this is a bad food, just try and treat these couple of weeks as a bit of an experiment. So to really think about what is a whole food and just try and include some more whole foods in your diet that you wouldn't normally include. Maybe you might try some new foods, so you might try some whole foods that you haven't come across before. It might be a whole grain or whatever, but try some different foods. You might also try some new cooking methods, even experiment with some different cuts of meat that you haven't used before. This just help to, as ways to just try and include some more whole foods into your diet. With this habit, it's encouraging you to really look at what you're eating and what's been done to that food. So just because a food might say that it's healthy or natural on the label doesn't necessarily mean that it's a whole food. Often those foods are quite heavily processed. So it's just encouraging you to really think about what you're eating and whether there's been much that's been done to that food, or is it in its relatively whole state. In terms of this habit, just have a think about where you're at now. So as a base, if you're finding that maybe you don't include a lot of whole foods in your diet, you might just start by substituting some existing foods. So for example, if you eat a lot of ham for lunch or something like that, you might experiment with some cooked pieces of chicken. So it's just making some little substitutions where you can and moving closer to incorporating more whole foods. If you feel you're already doing that, the next step is to try and add in one meal a day where you're cooking with whole foods only. A good place to start could be your dinner, where you're selecting a piece of meat, some whole vegetables, and that your carbs are either a sweet potato or another type of whole grain. That might be the easiest place to start. If you find you can manage that, then maybe do this for 2 meals per day. If you're already doing that, or you feel that that's within your reach, try and include as many whole foods as you can so that most of your meals are going to consist of purely whole foods. Then you can work on improving the quality of those foods, the consistency so that you're regularly doing that, and just that you're getting a good variety of different whole foods. Okay, so for the next 2 weeks relative to this habit, we'd also like you to have a think about and comment up what is one thing that is within your reach that you think you can manage that's going to help you move closer toward your nutrition goal. That might be something like, for your carbs, you might make sure that they're all a whole food source. Your cuts of meat, you might be looking at including the protein at each meal and that it's a whole food. You might also look at substituting for your snacks. You might include some whole fruits and veggies rather than processed packaged food. So just have a think about something that you feel that's achievable for you and it is going to help to move you towards your goal. Okay, that's about it for this habit, but if you've got any questions in relation to it or any suggestions or ideas or whatever, feel free to post those up and we can have a look and get back to you all. Okay, thanks guys.